I never thought much about bouncers before that night. They were just these intimidating figures standing outside clubs, deciding who gets in and who doesn't, right? But there was something different about him from the first moment I saw him. His name was Marcus, though I wouldn't learn that until later. What I noticed first was how he smiled at people even when he was turning them away, like he genuinely felt bad about it. Most bouncers I'd seen had this stone-cold expression, but not him. It was a Friday night in late September, and my friend David had dragged me out to this new club downtown. I wasn't really in the mood, honestly. I'd just ended things with someone I'd been seeing for a few months, nothing serious but enough to leave me feeling a bit raw and not particularly interested in the whole scene. But David insisted, said I needed to get out of my apartment, stop wallowing, all that friend intervention stuff. So there I was, standing in a line that wrapped around the building, wondering if I could fake a headache and go home. The line moved slowly, and I found myself watching the bouncer work. He was tall, probably 6'3" or so, with dark skin and these incredibly expressive eyes that caught the streetlight. He wore the standard all-black uniform, but somehow he made it look good, not just intimidating. There was this easy confidence about him, the way he moved, the way he spoke to people. I caught myself staring and looked away quickly, feeling stupid. When we finally got to the front, David was already chatting away, showing his ID, being his usual charming self. I fumbled for my wallet, suddenly nervous for no reason I could name. Marcus took my ID, glanced at it, then looked at me. Really looked at me. Not the quick scan bouncers usually do to match your face to the photo, but something longer, more intentional. "First time here?" he asked, and his voice was deeper than I expected, warm somehow despite the bass in it. "Yeah," I managed. "Friend's idea." He smiled, and I felt something shift in my chest. "You'll like it. Good crowd tonight." Then he handed back my ID and his fingers brushed mine for just a second. It was nothing, an accident, but I felt it all the way up my arm. David grabbed my shoulder as we walked in. "Dude, did you see that? He totally checked you out." "He was checking my ID," I said, but my heart was racing. "Sure, Jan," David laughed, using that old meme. "Whatever you say." Inside, the club was packed, music pounding, lights flashing, the usual chaos. David immediately spotted some people he knew and dove into the crowd. I made my way to the bar, ordered a drink I didn't really want, and tried to settle into the atmosphere. But I kept thinking about Marcus, about the way he'd looked at me, about his smile. I told myself I was being ridiculous. He was working. He probably smiled at everyone like that. It was his job to be friendly. I stayed for about 2 hours, nursing 2 drinks, dancing a little when David pulled me onto the floor, but mostly just going through the motions. My heart wasn't in it. Around midnight, I decided to call it a night. David was deep in conversation with some guy and barely noticed when I told him I was leaving. I made my way back through the crowd, pushed open the door, and stepped out into the cool night air. Marcus was still there, of course. The line had died down, just a few people waiting. He saw me come out and something changed in his expression, like he'd been waiting. "Leaving already?" he called over. I walked closer, not sure why. "Yeah, early night for me." "You okay?" He looked concerned and it caught me off guard. "You look a little down." I shrugged, trying to play it off. "Just not really my scene, I guess." He nodded slowly, like he understood something I hadn't said. "Where'd you park?" Couple blocks over. The garage on 5th. "The one by the old theater." When I nodded, he frowned slightly. "That's not the best area this time of night. Lots of dark spots between here and there." "I'll be fine," I said, but honestly, I hadn't thought about it. I'd parked there because it was cheap, not because it was safe. Marcus glanced back at the door, then at his watch. "My shift ends in 5 minutes. Let me walk you." "You don't have to do that," I said quickly. even though something in me wanted him to. "I know I don't have to," he said, and there was that smile again. "But I want to. Give me 5 minutes." I waited, leaning against the building, watching him finish up. He said something to another bouncer who'd come out, handed off his radio or whatever, then walked over to me. He'd taken off the work jacket and was just in a black t-shirt that showed off arms I'd only guessed at before. "Ready?" he asked. We started walking, and for the first block, neither of us said much. I was hyper-aware of him next to me, of the space between us, of the way our footsteps fell into sync. The street was mostly empty, just the occasional car passing, the distant sound of other bars and clubs. "So," he said finally, "bad breakup?" I laughed, surprised. "That obvious? I've worked doors for 4 years. You learn to read people." He glanced at me. "You had that look, like you were there, but not really there." "Few months ago," I admitted. "Nothing dramatic, just didn't work out. But yeah, still kind of processing it, I guess." "Those are sometimes harder," Marcus said. "The ones that just fade out instead of exploding. You don't get the anger to fuel you through it." "Exactly," I said, looking at him with new appreciation. "Most people don't get that." "I get it," he said quietly. We walked in comfortable silence for another half-block. I wanted to ask him questions, learn more about him, but I didn't know how, without seeming too eager or obvious. Finally, I went with the safe option. "You like the bouncer work?" He shrugged. "It pays well, and the hours work with my schedule. I'm in grad school during the day. Social work." "Seriously?" I couldn't hide my surprise. He laughed, and it was a great laugh, genuine and unguarded. "What, I don't look like a social worker?" "No, I just mean it's unexpected, in a good way." "Most people assume I'm just some dumb muscle," he said, but he didn't sound bitter about it. "I'm used to it. But yeah, I want to work with at-risk youth eventually. The bouncing thing is temporary, just until I finish my degree." "That's really cool," I said, meaning it. "I work in graphic design. Nothing as meaningful as social work." "Art matters too," Marcus said. "Different ways of helping people, connecting with people." We'd reached the parking garage, and I realized I didn't want the walk to end. I slowed down as we approached the entrance, trying to stretch out the moment. "What floor?" Marcus asked. "3rd. "I'll walk you up." The garage was dimly lit and echoing, our footsteps loud in the concrete space. My car was in the back corner, and as we got closer, I tried to think of something to say, some way to extend this. "This is me," I said, stopping by my car. It felt too soon, too abrupt. Marcus nodded, but he didn't move away. We stood there in the fluorescent light, and I could feel something building between us, some kind of tension that made it hard to breathe. "Thank you," I said, "for walking me. You really didn't have to." "I wanted to," he said again, and this time there was weight to the words. "Can I tell you something?" My heart was pounding. "Yeah." "I noticed you the second you got in line tonight. I kept hoping you'd come back out, that I'd get a chance to talk to you." He took a breath. I'm not usually this forward, but I felt like if I didn't say something now, I'd regret it. I stared at him, trying to process what I was hearing. "You noticed me." "Hard not to," he said softly. "You have this way of looking at the world, like you're taking everything in, really seeing it. I watched you through the door window. You weren't just going through the motions like everyone else." "I was pretty much going through the motions," I admitted. "Maybe. But even that was different." He stepped a little closer. "Look, I know this is random, and maybe I'm reading this all wrong, but would you want to get coffee sometime? Or dinner? Or anything that doesn't involve me being on duty and you being in a club you don't want to be in?" I couldn't help but smile. I'd really like that. The relief on his face was endearing. "Yeah. Yeah." I pulled out my phone. "Give me your number." We exchanged numbers, and I was very aware of how close we were standing, of the way he was looking at me. Part of me wanted him to kiss me right there, but another part appreciated that he didn't, that he was giving this space to breathe and develop. "Text me when you get home safe," he asked. "I will." "Good." He smiled, started to walk away, then turned back. "Hey, what's your name? I only know you from your ID." I laughed. "Caspian. My parents were really into the ocean." "Caspian," he repeated, like he was testing how it felt. "I like it. I'm Marcus." "I know," I said, then felt my face heat. "It was on your name tag." He grinned, observant. "I like that too." I watched him walk away, back toward the garage entrance, and I felt lighter than I had in months. I got in my car, started the engine, and sat there for a moment, just smiling like an idiot. Then I pulled out my phone and texted him. "Home safe? Well, still in the garage, but you know what I mean." His response came almost immediately. "Glad to hear it. Sleep well, Caspian." I drove home in a daze, replaying every moment of our conversation, every look, every smile. When I got to my apartment, I texted him again. "Actually home now. Thanks again for tonight." "Thanks for letting me walk you, and for saying yes to coffee." "When were you thinking?" I typed, then deleted it, not wanting to seem too eager. But then I thought, why play games? If he was interested enough to ask me out, I could be honest about wanting to see him. I typed it again and hit send. "Tomorrow too soon," he wrote back. "I'm off on Saturdays." Tomorrow's perfect. We made plans to meet at a coffee shop near campus at 2 in the afternoon. I barely slept that night, my mind racing with possibilities and hopes and fears. What if it was weird in daylight? What if the connection I'd felt was just the product of the late hour and the unusual circumstances? What if I'd built it up too much in my head? But when I walked into the coffee shop the next day and saw Marcus sitting by the window, those fears evaporated. He stood up when he saw me, and his smile was just as warm as it had been the night before. He was wearing jeans and a dark green Henley that brought out the warmth in his skin tone, and he looked somehow both more relaxed and more nervous than he had at the club. "Hey," he said. "Hey." We ordered coffee and found a table in the corner, and then we just talked. We talked for 3 hours straight about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Atlanta, about his family, about why he chose social work. I told him about my work, about the breakup I was getting over, about my complicated relationship with my parents who still hadn't fully accepted that I was gay. He listened, really listened, asking questions that showed he was paying attention to more than just my words. "My parents took a while, too," he said. "My dad especially. But they came around eventually. Sometimes people just need time to unlearn what they've been taught." "How long did it take?" "Couple years," he admitted. "But we're good now. Really good." They ask about my dating life and everything. "That must be nice," I said, trying not to sound as envious as I felt. "It is. But I remember how it felt before. That uncertainty. It's hard." He reached across the table and touched my hand briefly. "You deserve people who fully accept you." That simple touch, that simple statement made my throat tight. "Thank you." The coffee shop was closing when we finally left. We stood outside on the sidewalk, neither of us wanting to say goodbye. "Can I see you again?" Marcus asked. "Like soon?" "How about tomorrow?" I said, and we both laughed. "I have to work tomorrow night, but I'm free during the day. Want to do something? Maybe walk around the park?" "I'd love that." This became our pattern. We saw each other almost every day for the next 2 weeks. Long walks, coffee dates, dinners at hole-in-the-wall restaurants he knew. We texted constantly when we weren't together. He sent me photos of things that made him think of me. A weird cloud formation, a dog wearing a hat, a piece of graffiti art. I sent him terrible puns and links to articles I thought he'd find interesting. It was easy with him in a way I'd never experienced before. There was no game playing, no trying to figure out what he was thinking or feeling. He was direct and honest, and it made me want to be the same way. When he liked something I said, he told me. When something bothered him, he brought it up gently but clearly. It felt mature and real in a way that made me realize how much time I'd wasted on relationships that were neither of those things. 3 weeks after we met, he invited me to his apartment for dinner. He cooked, which surprised me, and he was good at it. We ate on his couch, watching some documentary about ocean life that I'd mentioned wanting to see, and halfway through, I realized I wasn't paying any attention to the screen. I was too aware of him next to me, of the warmth of his body, of how much I wanted to close the small distance between us. "You're not watching," he said softly. And when I looked at him, he was already looking at me. "No," I admitted. "What are you thinking about?" I took a breath, decided to be brave. "I'm thinking about how much I want to kiss you." His eyes darkened slightly. Yeah. "I've been wanting to kiss you since that first night," he said, "but I wanted to make sure we built something real first, that this wasn't just physical. And now? Now I think we've built something pretty real." He moved closer, his hand coming up to cup my face. "And I really want to kiss you too." When his lips met mine, it felt like coming home. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, both of us learning the shape of each other. Then it deepened, and I felt it everywhere, this warmth spreading through my whole body. His hand slid into my hair, and I gripped his shirt, pulling him closer. We broke apart eventually, both breathing hard. Marcus rested his forehead against mine, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. "Wow," he said. "Yeah," I agreed. "Wow." We spent the rest of the evening on that couch, talking and kissing and just being together. It felt momentous and ordinary all at once, like we were starting something important, but also like we'd been doing this forever. That was 6 months ago. We're together now, officially, and it's the healthiest, happiest relationship I've ever been in. He met my parents last month, and while it was awkward at first, by the end of dinner, my mom was showing him embarrassing photos of me as a kid, and my dad was asking his advice about something. They're trying, which is more than I'd hoped for. I met his family over video chat, and they were warm and welcoming, and immediately started teasing him about finally finding someone. His little sister told me I was too good for him, and his mom pulled me aside virtually to tell me she'd never seen him this happy. He still works as a bouncer on weekends, and sometimes I go to the club just to see him, to watch him work. He always lets me skip the line now, which makes me laugh every time. And he always walks me to my car when I leave, even though we both know I'll just be going back to his place or mine. Last week, we were walking to my car, and I stopped him in the same parking garage where this all started. "What?" he asked, smiling. I was just thinking about that first night, how I almost didn't come out, how easily we could have never met. "But we did meet," he said, pulling me close, "and I'm really glad we did." "Me too." I kissed him there under the fluorescent lights in the same spot where everything changed. Best night of my life, getting walked to my car by the bouncer. "Best night of my life, getting to walk you," he said. We stood there for a moment, just holding each other, and I thought about how love can find you in the most unexpected places, in the most unexpected ways. How sometimes the person you need walks into your life when you're not even looking, when you're just trying to get through another night. Marcus was that for me. The bouncer who let me skip the line, who walked me to my car, who saw something in me worth pursuing. And I was falling more in love with him every single day.